So it's funny because earlier during my vision therapy session, she asked me, tell me, what does your tattoo mean? And I honestly, even pre-concussion, I frequently forget I have a back tattoo because out of sight, out of mind. And I got my tattoo way before I even knew I had ADHD. So yeah, I kind of just forget that it's there until something brings up that memory. But now that I remember it and she asked me what it means, I kind of figured I wanted to share. The basis of my tattoo, the way I had designed it, was like the dream catcher first, to symbolize all the shadows and the darkness that could be in this world, and the way that that can impact me, and how it has not the dream catcher itself, but just how the darkness can overwhelm me, and I can frequently go through depression and all that type of stuff. It essentially signifies all the darkness in this world and wanting to navigate through it in a different way. So the dream catcher was like essentially the purification process and filtering through the shadows. And the birds symbolize me, and how it starts off from the bottom by the feathers of the dream catcher, and the birds start off small, and as you navigate through, the dream catcher intertwines around and goes through it, it gets bigger, and that kind of symbolizes like the different I don't want to say versions of me, but just like how it's like a layering, right? It's like as we rise up higher and as we fly through in the purification process to somehow integrate both the shadows and the light together and go through it, then those layers of me get peeled off. And as I peel off those layers, then the birds get bigger. And that's actually symbolizing just how much more me I can be when the shadows and the light are integrated. I mentioned there are like feathers in the bottom of my dream catcher, and the feathers are meant to symbolize flowing with the wind and the ability to kind of fly through or be lifted up by the wind specifically, which is like, you know, with birds, they glide and they soar. They're not always having to work hard and flap their wings. And so many connections here because I got this like 10 years ago. But yeah, so the feathers show that there's movement in the air, and it's that movement in the air combined with letting go of the old, letting go of the things that have been embraced by the darkness that actually carries us up, and how the wind is the breath of God that carries us up higher and through the things that could engulf us in the midst of the darkness and the shadows, but helps us actually fly through it with grace. The feathers on my dream catcher are the way I wanted it. I didn't want it to just be feathers that were like there. I wanted to be feathers that like curved with the wind, because I wanted it to be affected and impacted by the wind. I wanted it to be impacted by the flow and what is currently going on, and so that it can symbolize grace, and so that it can symbolize what it's like to feel what is going on in the moment, not just for the worse, but also to really feel how we're supposed to move move alongside of the things that are happening in the moment, as opposed to just either being too stiff or just completely being blown away that we lose who we are. So, yeah, I don't know if I've ever actually recorded on video what what my tattoo symbolizes or the story behind it. I know I've written it down for myself because I wrote down the concept before playing around with what we wanted to integrate into the design of it, and play around with, did I want it to be Dreamcatcher, did I want it to be how did I want the birds to look, did I want one bird, did I want multiple birds, which direction do I want the birds to fly through, all of that. So yeah, I don't think I have ever talked about it on video, but like I said, I got this tattoo, I thought of the concept back in 2013, I got it in 2014, so it's been 11 years really, and it's crazy to me how now that after losing my grandparents and going through everything that I'm going through, but definitely after losing my grandparents, it just takes the meaning of my tattoo even higher. It takes it to a whole different level. Yeah, it's just crazy to me, because while yes, I have had concepts and experiences that contributed to this message and the story of my tattoo, I think when it comes to the darkness and the heaviness and shadows, going through things with my grandparents, really just it takes it to a whole new level, and learning how to rise up from ashes, essentially learning how to rise up from ashes while learning how to rely on other people to help me and to be forced to rest in His grace. And I say rest in quotations because the idea of rest is I feel it can be different for a lot of people, but for me, rest in the sense of laying down my hyper independence, and that can manifest both in a physical way, but execution of tasks and that type of stuff. But I think it's more the concept of allowing other people to show up for me and carry the load, and trusting that God is bringing people like that into my life, because I can know and feel that God is telling me this is not for you to carry. But visually, ironic I say visually because I need to go through vision therapy, but visually I am feeling or I'm seeing that I am the only one that is able to take action on a lot of these things, whether it's repeatedly calling over and over and over and all the medical stuff, or trying to take notes, despite the fact that doesn't make sense because my memory is so shot and so poor. My memory is so shot and it's so poor that it kind of doesn't make sense to, if you really think about it, it doesn't make sense to be the only one that is doing all that. And it doesn't make sense, like, when people are like, yeah, just call this person or just call this number, and it's like, okay, I could call that number, but unless it's going to get solved within like 5 minutes, at some point I'm going to have to like remember the conversations and remember everything. Like notes aren't going to help at this point, because I can only read so much and comprehend so much, because cognitively I'm limited. So it doesn't really make sense. Anyways, yeah, so those types of things visually, to me, seems like, okay, who else am I going to rely on to execute these things and to remember these things and care about them enough to actually follow through with the level of urgency that I have? Because from my perspective, most people aren't going to understand the level of urgency my situation requires or carries, except for me. And yeah, I am still struggling with feeling like I am limited. I'm so limited and unable to execute the things that need to happen. That's frustrating because I already struggled with executing that, having ADHD and depression and all that. But this takes it to a different level that essentially forces me to learn what rest means at this time, what rest looks like, because rest looks different almost in every moment. And I have to gauge and flow with the fluctuations in a moment-to-moment basis. And it's so hard internally to allow myself to rest, or metaphorically connecting it to my tattoo, glide and trust that even though I'm not working hard to fly or working hard to rise up, even if I don't have to work at all, to like the idea of not working, quote unquote, at all, like in the moment, and trusting that God's breath of life is the one that's going to lift me up in everything that is happening right now. Like that is so challenging for me, despite the fact that I am a firm believer. I think the practical aspect of seeing what trust and faith and rest and grace looks like on a day-to-day, that's incredibly hard for me to let it sink in. I feel like there's stuff that I'm forgetting regarding the meaning of my tattoo, because I can't remember what I've already said, but you know, we'll keep it there for now, and who knows, hopefully, well, I'm trying to let myself this is so funny because like I don't know how to do bare minimum. Like I've it's just so funny how, you know, depending on others' perception of me, and usually it's people who don't really know me or who are seeing me through their lens instead of seeing me as who I am. I've been told, like, you know, I gave like bare minimum, but this whole situation with me right now has repeatedly been showing me to just rest even more and to learn how to let others take care of me, whatever that looks like, and depending on dynamic. And I've had someone tell me before that they don't think I know how to give bare minimum. They said that my breadcrumbs look like 5 feet baguettes. And I really didn't understand that at all. Like, I didn't get what that meant, like on an actual energetic level, or if I could measure what I'm giving or putting out. But now that we're talking about trying to do less and less and less and less and less because my capacity is so limited, it is freaking mind-blowing how difficult it is for me to do less and not do more. Like, I am fighting so hard to do more, and I just keep running into walls whenever I do more. I feel like conceptually I'm aware enough of my journey, my internal journey, but I am learning what allowing myself to be lifted up by grace, what gliding or soaring without flapping my own wings looks like on a day-to-day level. And it has been a journey. So, yeah. This probably went on a tangent, but it is what it is because I'm trying not to edit as much. And I don't mean like just my words, I mean like the actual physical editing. Okay, let's see if I can get a lift home. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you next time, and I hope that if I see you around, whether it's through Pokemon Go or through streams or wherever, come say hi. Come say hi. I tend to be shy and not meaning to rhyme, but yeah, come say hi.